everybody. Welcome to Movie Masterminds. My name is Patrick. This is
Zion.
And Xavier.
All right, and today we are taking a little trip. We checked out Kong Skull Island. We were going to review that, but it was a little creepy. Specifically the spider scene where it was stabbing through people's heads, apparently.
Spoilers.
That's not much of a spoiler, though. That's like, it happens in those kinds of movies. So instead we decided to go back in time. We're going back to 2008 today, and we are going to start a trip through the entire MCU. We're going to start with Iron Man and go through, not chronologically based on release, through the MCU. So we're not starting with Captain America First Avenger. We're starting with Iron Man, where it all began, and seeing like what happened and what changed throughout. And then rating them and ranking them and seeing like where these movies rate and where the characters rank, so we can start establishing our own sort of appreciation for these movies. So first thing we should check out the trailer for 2008 when this movie came out. I remember it. Zion, you were not even a year old yet when it came out. Xavier was not yet born at that time. I remember when it came out, everybody was we didn't know what to expect from it because superhero movies had kind of fallen down a bit. The last big superhero movie that I recall was, Batman Begins had come out 2 years earlier, and it was okay. And before that, I think Spider-Man 3 or something around that time had come out, and Spider-Man 3 was it did well. It made a lot of money, but it was a disappointment kind of. So at this time, superhero movies were not what they are today. Not what they are today at all, but it was... But now, looking back, I remember when it came out, I didn't see it till I moved to Taiwan. And I remember my buddies Gino and Mike saw it, and they told me, this movie is amazing. It's just so fantastic. And when I saw it, I thought it was fantastic. So, spoilers, we're probably going to say it's pretty good. But we're going to look at it a little bit in depth and kind of see things. Thoughts when you guys saw the preview there? Is the preview different from other Marvel movies that you've seen?
I think you can kind of see it was obviously Marvel's sort of first more major movie.
Or MCU's. The MCU, because they had major movies before that. They had X-Men, they had Spider-Man, Fantastic Four.
But this was like the first MCU movie. So you can see the styles slightly different. And obviously it being Iron Man, and I think they took sort of this concept of Iron Man, sort of what they thought he should be, and they just really stuck with it throughout the whole, both in the trailer and the movie. And honestly, the only complaint I have is that they spoil basically the first third of the movie right away in the trailers. So you kind of see a lot of major clips from about the first third of the movie right away. So,
I think also it is the origin story. Like I think I don't know if it's spoiled because it's a lot of. I mean, for the comic book people, they already know that part. They know what's going to happen. So it's kind of like... What's fun is, I think, when you watch it, it still is really an interesting part of the movie, I think.
Yeah.
That beginning is still pretty cool to watch, I think. The intro. What do you think, Xavier? Is the trailer different than the modern Marvel trailers that we're used to? Now that Marvel's a huge thing.
I'd say probably yes, because this one, it feels like they're just trying to get the idea that, this is Iron Man, and they're trying to get the mood of the movie out. But in the newer movies that they've been making, it's not really just the mood. They're also trying to come across as, you can expect this to happen, but then they have a giant plot twist, kind of. It's like you're expecting this, you're waiting for this to happen, and then once it happens, then basically everything you know is thrown off.
Well, I think, too, the expectation with the trailer even, just that it's a full-blown movie. Or like the movie, but like think about the more recent movies. It's the whole universe of the MCU now. And so it's reminding us about that universe, what's been going on, all this kind of stuff in the trailers. One of the things that I did notice that I think is different than most of the new movies is the use of music. Like, what's the kind of music that you hear in a lot of the modern trailers that we've seen, especially for like MCU stuff? What kind of music do we usually hear?
Dramatic, not really.
I think it's more sort of the music is fit really around the entire MCU universe rather than the music specific to that character. Where in this, that music you can tell is like Iron Man's music. Like you can tell this is his style of music. Whereas in a lot of the later movie trailers that the MCU does do, it's just sort of very just large thematic music. Not really, just sort of encompassing what the music should be for the entire MCU per se.
So like calling back to other MCU movies that we're aware of, kind of like playing on the things that we know already, the Avengers theme or whatever else. What about you, Xavier? What do you think?
I think I agree with Zion, but it's also that this was easier to not base it around an entire universe because they didn't really have an entire universe. And it does fit. It fits like the heavy, like, I'm going to do this, rather than the MCU, the later trailers, I feel like the music is more dramatic, like trying to build up to something. Almost more, it's like, I don't know how to explain it.
Okay. I think one of the things that I found interesting about it, I'm just looking up real quick, because there's some interesting like things behind what happened, but I think one of the interesting things about the trailer that I noticed that I felt was different than the modern trailers actually was the music itself, and you guys aren't really aware of all that music, but the music itself was actually each of those songs were original, not original for the movie, but original songs by other artists.
Yep.
And now when you see a lot of movies, a lot of trailers, they use like these remixed versions of songs all the time, and like these alternate versions of songs that are older songs, and they'll put them in. Like Disney does a lot of those in a lot of their trailers, where they have like, I don't know, they'll do a remix version with some girl singing Uptown Funk, but it's super slow and dark and something else. And this was just like all that music was like it had Filter, Hey Man, Nice Shot. It had AC/DC, Back in Black. It had Iron Man by Black Sabbath. It had this music that's original music. And I thought that was interesting. And also just the feel of the trailer, what it's like. Modern trailers, I think, have changed in the past, like, it's been, 15 years at least? So modern trailers have just changed from what that was. That feels like an older kind of trailer. I like it better. I like the feeling of it. I feel like new trailers give away so much. And although that one gave things away, it just felt like they were establishing characters and things and plot. So a couple things about this that I didn't realize until I was watching like Captain America the other day. But I didn't realize that the company that was producing these was Paramount. Which you guys probably don't know a lot of. Do you recognize Paramount? Have you seen any movies by Paramount?
A lot.
A lot? Like what?
Like all of the Spider-Man movies.
That's Universal.
It is?
Yeah. Or not Universal, Sony. Sony, I'm sorry, not Universal. So Paramount, and I was trying to find like the numbers, like how much did they, I didn't realize like Paramount had the rights to the MCU before this. So they produced Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, Thor, and Captain America: The First Avenger. And then they sold in 2010, they sold it all to Disney, which strikes me as strange because I'm not sure why. I can't figure out why, because Disney, of course, took it now, and they've made bajillions of dollars off of it. Now, maybe it was because Thor and Incredible Hulk didn't do so well, and Captain America: First Avenger was like, it was pretty good, but really Iron Man was the highest grossing, I believe, of all those movies. But so that's kind of interesting that before it was the MCU with somebody else besides Disney, because now we know Disney just is this Goliath who owns everything. So before we just kind of jump through that, now what I want to do is rank all these. Again, reminding in 2008, superhero movies were down, kind of. This was not expected. There were some other movies that came out. What do you think was the biggest grossing movie of 2008? Where do you think this one ranked? Top 10. This was a top 10 film for 2008 for international box office. I'll tell you, it was the number 2 movie for United States in terms of tickets. But for the whole world that year, it was not number 1. Where do you think it was at in top 10?
Probably number, like, I'd say 8-ish, maybe.
Okay.
I'd say 6, probably.
Okay.
Maybe 5.
Well, we have it here, the worldwide box office that year. Let's see what some of these were that came out. That beat out Iron, which seems odd to say they would beat out Iron Man. But the first one, The Dark Knight, was the biggest grossing film of 2008, which we've watched The Dark Knight. I think that's a good movie. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, we never watched that, but that's Indiana Jones. It's a terrible movie. I don't think we will watch it. Maybe we will.
That.
Did we?
Yeah, we watched it
Yeah,
together.
we watched Indiana Jones.
No, we didn't watch that one, though.
Yeah, you didn't want us to watch it.
Oh,
you
then
said you
'cause
said
it's
you didn't
terrible.
want us to watch it, but we watched it anyways.
I watched that in the theater, I think, and I was not happy with it. Kung Fu Panda, the first Kung Fu Panda. I didn't realize that came out at that
I
time.
watched that.
Hancock, which was another kind of dark superhero movie. Mamma Mia, Madagascar 2, James Bond, Quantum of Solace, which is the second James Bond movie, I think. Iron Man, and then we have Wall-E was after that. So really, Iron Man, interestingly enough, not like the hugest movie at that time. Although it made a lot of money. It made $500 million, $585 million to be exact. So that's... but it's kind of interesting that it's...
Number 8.
Number 8, I mean, thinking now where it's at. And all these other movies have gone now. I mean, Kung Fu Panda still sells movies and makes movies. I think they make cartoons and stuff and TV shows, but...
I mean, compared to the rest of these, like, Iron Man is just, like, the MCU in general is just so much larger. It's, like, consistently number 1.
Yeah.
I also think the reason that they're getting that Iron Man and the rest of the movies got bigger is they kind of built off of Iron Man and kind of copied almost what they did.
Yep.
To make it almost better and better until they got to where they are now.
And I think with Iron Man, they kind of started their own market almost for superhero movies, because obviously, like you said, there wasn't superhero movies really at the time, other than obviously The Dark Knight. And then I think they just sort of really boosted...
the idea of the tentpole superhero movie.
Yep.
Interestingly, though, because Dark Knight came out that year, if you were looking at them, the trajectory of these movies would have been like, oh, Iron Man's pretty good. And then, of course, after that, Thor and these others came out, but they weren't really, like, super high. I mean, I'm not sure what Thor did. I could check right now what Thor and these other ones did. But The Dark Knight was huge, and it was like, DC is going to go through the roof. DC is just going to be so successful. They had one of the best directors making these really realistic movies. And the MCU we just talked about Justice League just a little while ago. The MCU just shot past them by the time we got to 2013. So within a few years, the MCU just bolted past them with Avengers versus Man of Steel, I think it was, that year. Or I think it was Avengers and Man of Steel or something like that. Or Dark Knight Returns. Then Man of Steel the next year, and just went past them completely. So interesting enough. So here, we're going to do a real quick quiz. We're going to see what you guys know. We're going to go back and forth between the two of you. Don't look at the screen here when I do this, okay? I will tell you. Who wants to start?
Me.
Oh, Xavier, you're going to start. Here's the quiz. What country does the film start?
The country?
Which country does this film start?
The very beginning?
Yes. We got United States, France, Afghanistan, or China.
I'll say Afghanistan.
Okay, good, correct answer. What did you guys think of that storytelling style when they started us there with showing us his Humvee getting blown up? Of course, we get to see Tony Stark being Tony Stark, kind of, which was very cool, I thought. That was establishing his character really well. But what did you guys think of that beginning, to start us there and then go back in time, kind of, and tell us the pre-story before that?
I think the way they did it is part of what made it such a good movie, is because obviously in a movie, one of the biggest things, I mean, even just between sort of even like writing stories or something, like just having a story altogether, whether it be a movie or obviously a written story, the first part of the process is obviously getting the person who's watching or reading hooked, and that was a good hook. Like, it grabbed whoever was watching, and when you just start out with something such as getting his Humvee blown up, it really sets the mood and really makes you lean forward in your seat almost.
And I think also that like Thor and Captain America also did that. Like with Captain America, they had finding him in the ice, and then Thor was him getting banished.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I watched one of the videos that somebody posted about the similarities between Captain America, the First Avenger, and Iron Man, and it was really funny to see because you could see how everything changed as time went on, because Captain America and Iron Man were actually very the same. Like all of the big parts, you could relate to them if you watch very closely, which was cool.
So you mean like in terms of just the way they structured the story, it was kind of like the same beats, basically. Yeah.
And also, it was really interesting, too, because some of the scenes were, like, almost mirror images with different people, almost. Like, when Yinsen died, when they had that whole scene, it was the same as when...
The doctor...
Yeah.
I forget his name. We'll see that later. Yeah, and I think it'll be interesting to see just how the characters changed. And when they started, I think, because they had these 4 main characters, we'll see the Incredible Hulk, but I don't know how that'll go over, because that was not... They, of course... change the actors and things, but just to see, because in the beginning they were all kind of just like the same superhero guys, and they didn't really establish any super personality differences, except for Iron Man definitely had his own personality, which was just from the beginning of the movie. And like you said, it was kind of like a hook in an essay that your teachers teach you, like punch them in the face right away, get their attention. And that's what it did right away, to be like, oh my gosh, this is our hero. He's this cocky guy, and very interesting stuff. So,
well, I mean, they were kind of different. I agree that they didn't have, like, very diverse personalities, but they did have different personalities.
And yeah, I think also as the MCU went along, I think they really started developing a lot of the other characters a lot more. Like, by the time, like, Captain America Winter Soldier or even Avengers Age of Ultron, I think that's when they really started making these characters sort of have their own personalities, yeah.
And I think that's something, too, when we'll talk about it later. We'll get into all those other movies as we go, because we're going to go through all of them. But connecting that to what we've seen in other superhero movies, that we didn't really see personality from characters. It was just like, this is the superhero. He's a superhero guy. He has superpowers. He's going to use them. But this was, and they did that early on, but I think we'll see as they develop, I think. It's kind of interesting. But again, having Tony Stark to lean on was nice, because he did have a really strong personality from the very moment he's on the screen. You like him, I think.
Yeah.
The moment you see him in the Humvee, and he's acting and doing just all the stuff he's doing, it's like, man, this guy's fun. This guy's interesting. So very good job, as they know, for the MCU people who hired Robert Downey Jr. Great job for hiring him. We know that already after all these years. He's a great actor. How old was Tony Stark when he built his first circuit board?
I believe he was...
We have 4, 10, 16, or 21.
I think it was 4.
Correct. Okay. 2 points. All right, see if you can answer without the multiple choice. We'll give you bonus points.
Okay.
In the first film, in Iron Man, the one we just watched, where's Tony's house located? Which state?
Malibu, California.
Oh, good job. Okay. Ready? This one's a hard one, Zion.
Technically, it's not a house. It's a mansion.
True.
On an island.
What's the name of the computer program that runs Tony's operations?
Jarvis. Named after Howard Stark's butler.
There you go. Okay. Here we go. This is a tough one. Pepper Potts is played by which actress?
Do you need both names?
I'll give you the choices here. Can you do it without the choices?
Wait, I'm just asking. Do you need...
First name or last name?
Or
choices?
First name, I think I know. Gwyneth?
There we go. That's close enough. Yep. Gwyneth Paltrow. There we go. All right. Let's see. When Tony is abducted, what do his captors want him to make for them?
The Jericho missile.
There we go. Okay. What is the name of Tony's company?
Stark Industries.
All right. What is the name of the man who initially stops the shrapnel from reaching Tony's heart?
Yinsen.
Oof. What is the name of the group that captured Tony and Yinsen?
The 10 Rings, later to be called the 7 Rings.
After whose death does Tony decide to create weapons no more?
Jensen.
Who comes to Tony's rescue in the desert after he escapes the 10 Rings?
James Rhodes.
Ooh. Ooh, which actor plays James Rhodes? This is hard. Need the choices?
It's Zion's turn.
Oh, it's Zion's turn. Do you need the choices?
Ooh.
Yeah, probably.
Don Cheadle, Jamie Foxx, Terrence Howard, or Denzel Washington. Were you actually watching the credits before the post credits?
Nope.
I know it's not. I know it's not one of them.
I know it without reading the quiz. I knew it before because I know my actors pretty well. But
I know that it's not one of them because he plays the later Rhodey.
yes.
5.
5.
Denzel Washington, I guess.
Not Denzel Washington. It is Terrence Howard.
Jamie Foxx plays the second one.
No, Jamie Foxx, actually. Jamie Foxx, which actor did he play in a Marvel movie?
Which actor?
He did not play. He was in a Sony movie, actually. He played the villain in a Sony Marvel movie. Not in an MCU
Electro?
movie. Yes, he played Electro.
Oh.
All right, how long was Tony held captive?
Choices?
1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months.
I'm going to say 2 months.
3 months. Okay. What is the first thing that Tony wants to eat when he returns home?
Cheeseburger.
This one is easy. Unfair.
All right. Which Avengers characters appears in the first film? Which Avengers character from the Avengers movie appears in the first movie?
Is this
There's 2.
from Iron Man?
In Iron Man, which character who's also in the Avengers? There's 2 characters from the Avengers that appear in it.
Iron Man and Nick Fury.
Well, besides Iron Man. So there's 2 characters besides Iron Man.
Nick Fury and Agent Coulson.
Oh. What color is Iron Man's first prototype suit that Tony creates?
Silver.
Silver?
You looking, Zion, you looking.
Are we
I
sure it's
see
silver?
you looking.
Okay. When Pepper cases the original heart device, what has she written around it?
Proof that Tony Stark has a heart.
Oh. When Tony arrives at his benefit, who does he mistake as Hugh Hefner?
Stanley.
What color is Pepper Potts' dress at the benefit?
Blue.
What is the name of the town to which Stain sends weapons after Tony plans to shut down the weapons department?
Choices.
Gulmira, Kabul, Kolkata, Chennai. Or Chennai.
What's the first one?
Gulmira.
Gomira.
What color is Tony's official Iron Man suit?
Red and gold. Technically hot.
Where does
red.
Tony get the medal for the red and gold Iron Man suit?
It's a satellite.
See you looking at the answers.
Who does Stain meet with behind Tony's back?
Raza.
How'd you know? You guys are both looking at him, I think. What is Tony's original mission for creating Iron Man?
Escaping the terrorists.
All right. So battling terrorists?
Yeah.
Nope, it's destroying weapons. Okay. Strike 2. Who is the first to realize that Obadiah paid Raza to kill Tony Stark?
Pepper Potts.
Which character played Obadiah Stane?
Oh, I get all the hard ones. What are the choices?
Sean Connery, Jeff Bridges, Bruce Willis, Dustin Hoffman.
Who was the first one?
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery, I guess.
No, it was Jeff Bridges. Okay, we'll stop there. We got 3 strikes. We missed 3. We'll see how this goes up against.
No, I want my last question.
Well, that's 3 strikes. We got.
No,
So-
I want my last question.
There's no last question. We got 3 strikes.
So I won?
Nobody won. That's for all of us to see how we do on the next one when we do the next quiz for Thor.
No, I won.
All right. So a couple things here. Let's go ahead. How do we rate this here? Let's start S at the top, A, B, C, D, F going down. How would we rate Iron Man
missed
the
E.
hero?
You missed E.
Okay, that's good. Let's see. Rating our hero, Iron Man. How would we rate Iron Man?
Like him as a character in the movie.
Just, yes. How would we, rating his performance or the character himself, how would you rate this character?
Probably a B.
I give him an A because in the later movies it'll probably turn to a B, but because this was the first like MCU movie, I give it an A because this was new to them, and Robert Downey Jr. just played the part so well.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm gonna stick with a B just because, I think just in general, RDJ obviously he played Tony Stark really well, and but I think the way Tony sort of mingled and meshed with some of the other characters, I don't think was as good, and I think they made Tony's personality just a bit on the harsh side, which I think they kind of pull out a bit more in the later movies. But I think he was just, I don't know, I just think it's probably a B.
Okay.
He was different from the comics to the movies too. It seemed like in the comics he was nicer almost, but then in the movies he kind of had an edge almost.
I think it's hard to say because there's been so many different versions of him in the comics too. I think you both have it wrong. I think he's an S in this movie. He carries the movie. The movie is all about him. Like we said, he establishes like the MCU on his own basically, and his power of personality makes the movie. I think it really. Any other character in this, any other actor doing it, I think the movie doesn't do as well because you have to remember too, like Iron Man was like a B level superhero at this point. He was not Superman, he was not Spider-Man, Batman, the X-Men. He was not that level of character. Even Captain America was bigger than him. If you look back at a lot of the things that came out, like video games prior to this and things like that, or other cartoons. He had his own cartoon, but it was always like Fantastic Four or other things were kind of ahead of him. And always, of course, Spider-Man was like the premier Marvel thing at that time. So, all right, how about this? How about the villain? How do we rate the villain here?
So I'm assuming we're talking about Obadiah Stane here, since he is obviously the main antagonist. So I'd probably rate him like an A. I think he played his part well. I think it was just a solid villain. And I think the story behind some of the things, I think the story could have used a little work. Sort of like the reasoning, the motive of why he did what he did. I think it could have used a bit more polishing, but I think for the most part, acting and just character development wise, and also just it was a good villain. They set Obadiah Stane up well. I think it was almost like the perfect antagonist for this movie, just because you could really build a lot of this story off of sort of the fact that sort of like friends become enemies almost. I think they could sort of do that.
And this movie runs a little bit into the problem that we see with a lot of origin stories where you have the origin story, but then you can't have like
a villain.
You can't have a villain because the origin story takes up so much of the story. And this one does a good job kind of blending them, I guess, like you said. It blends in well to have that origin story connected to Obadiah Stane. What do you think, Xavier? What's your rating? So you said an
A.
An A, okay.
Well, since Zion did, I think that there are two villains, the Ten Rings and Obadiah, but the Ten Rings are like the first villain, and then they drop out, and then Obadiah comes in, I think. But I give the Ten Rings probably a B, because they captured how like villains and terrorists, I think, would act. You could tell that they were doing it for their own betterment, and that they kind of didn't trust Obadiah Stane. I think it also showed better when Raza, the main, the leader of the Ten Rings, was, I think, paralyzed by Obadiah Stane. You could see while he was drinking, it felt like he had almost like he was trying to coax Obadiah Stane into doing something that Obadiah wouldn't want to do.
Mm-hmm. And how about Obadiah Stane? How's his ranking?
I give it an A, maybe B.
Okay. I would say probably a B for me. I really like the acting. I really like the way the actor portrayed him.
I think in general the acting in this movie was solid.
Yeah. So I like the way that that Jeff Bridges portrayed him. He's a very famous actor before this, but the way he portrayed him was really he was aggressive. I like the idea of Iron Man getting his butt kicked a bit but not overpowered too much by the Ironmonger suit, and the way that he kind of outsmarted him at the end. So it didn't feel like a lot of movies where the villain's just super overpowered. Although looking back now from the other movies where you've seen what Iron Man can do, you're like, wow, I can't believe that Obadiah Stane did that he could stand up to him, really.
And obviously then you gotta think about, like, well, he was, like, a week in the Iron Man suit. Like.
Yeah, that too. And I think just that outsmarting where he's like, hey, you didn't actually test this thing out. I've tested my suit a little bit. And it had, like, some reasoning for why he was stronger or could outwit him. But I like the acting. Obviously, like you said, it's kind of a short villain, I guess. We don't see him very much. But then, like you said, the Ten Rings were kind of a villain, but I felt like that was one thing I didn't like, was that they ruined the Ten Rings, because that's supposed to be the Mandarin later, right?
I believe so, yeah.
It should develop into the Mandarin. I felt like when I saw it, I was like, oh, there's the man. That guy's going to be the Mandarin. And then, like, they killed him off, and it was like, that guy would have been perfect to be, like, the Mandarin later on.
They
didn't kill him off. They gave him a 15-minute temporary paralysis.
Well, they must have, because they killed off the other guys.
I don't know. It was very confusing.
Like, that part, I was a little disappointed.
I saw some of the teasers for the Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi, yeah. Whatever it is.
And they actually are bringing the 10 Rings, which are now the 7 Rings. But they're bringing him back and bringing in the new Mandarin, since they had Mandarin in the Iron Man 3.
Yeah,
they had the fake Mandarin, so they're bringing...
We'll get to that later on when we review the Iron Man 3. I have my own. We'll see. I'll watch it again. Maybe I'll enjoy it.
I doubt it.
All right, how about... let's see... Real quick, the supporting cast. Besides Obadiah and...
Like Pepper Potts, Agent Coulson.
There aren't really many, right? You have Rhodes, Pepper Potts, and...
Agent Coulson.
Sort of.
I thought interesting, Happy Hogan, like... I told you guys when we were watching, it was like, he's calling him Sir in this movie, but in the other movies, they're like best friends suddenly.
Yeah.
So that was kind of an interesting development as they went into the new movies. So for supporting cast, how do you think?
I'd probably give them an A, just because obviously in the moments where they were in the movie, I think they really did their part. And obviously the acting, as we've said so far, it was solid. So I think just in general, it was very good.
Okay. What do you say, Xavier?
I'd give them an A as well. I think that they did a good job of showing that Iron Man, like Tony Stark and Obadiah Stane, were important, but they also made the other people kind of heroes for a couple seconds. I think it just had the brighter light on other people instead of just one person being like this super powerful guy, and he doesn't have to worry about anything happening to him because he's so powerful.
I think that like you said, Zion, it's hard to say. I guess another strong B maybe. Just because Pepper Potts, when I rewatch it, I really felt like there was some chemistry with her and Tony. There was just something nice. How about for Rhodey? Who do you prefer as Rhodey?
I prefer the new actor.
Yeah.
You prefer Don Cheadle?
Yeah.
He's just more fun, I think, to see, because he felt more childish almost.
And I think, I don't know, maybe it's just because he's been featured more as Rhodey in War Machine, but
it's also because the old Rhodey, it felt like he was much more serious almost.
Yeah, I felt like he was more, like, he's stuck with the military a lot more, whereas the new Rhodey, he was like, obviously what Rhodey was supposed to be, Tony's best friend. Like, he went along with what Tony did.
Kind of, he still did some stuff like we'll see in Iron Man 2, I think, or Iron Man 3 when they actually fight each other and things like that. I think Iron Man 2, they fight each other.
Yeah, and Tony Stark gets his butt kicked by a newbie.
Yeah. I like this one better. I prefer Terrence Howard as Rhodey. I just feel like he seemed like he cared about Tony in some of the scenes much more because Rhodey, Don Cheadle does it much more, like you said, he's more playful with him and like busting his chops a bit. But I felt like this Rhodey like cared about Tony a little bit more and wanted to like he seems like he would break the rules for Tony a little bit more than Don Cheadle would. Like Don Cheadle was much more like thought he was at Tony's level, I guess, and this guy felt like there was moments when he like you could see he was concerned for Tony, I think, and concerned with what's going on.
Like the plane scene.
Or when he came back and found him. Like there just seemed to be more concern for him, I think. And I feel like that makes the character feel much more like he does, like you said, cares about Tony, that he would sacrifice things for Tony, like sacrifice his career for Tony a little bit more. So that's what I think about it. But how about this? What's the best scene in the movie?
Plane scene.
Okay.
On your belly. It looks like a man. Shake him off. Roll. Roll. I'm hit.
I think, honestly, the first time when Tony has, like, his classic Iron Man suit, the one you always picture, like, with the red and gold when he went to fight the terrorists and blew up the tank and everything, I think that was probably the coolest scene for me.
There was a lot of cool parts in there, like the part where he gets shot out, and it was kind of cool to see a superhero just get dirty, right away. And like you said earlier, he's been doing this like a week. He hasn't been doing it very long.
I think that's another problem with some of the other ones is like in Captain America, like when he goes to infiltrate like Hydra's base, he can just do it without like getting damaged,
without having to learn how to do the job.
Yeah, without having to learn how to do the job. When Captain America's been showboating around the...
Well, he's Captain America.
Yeah.
True, but I mean, establishing that they need to do something is...
Whereas, in Iron Man, I think it really established the fact that he was more human than... Like, he was just a human in a tin suit. Like, he wasn't some...
And they had some funny moments in those scenes where he shot the guys. I mean, it was violent, I thought. They didn't have any blood, but it was pretty violent. He shoots like 6 guys, and then... where the tank shoots him down, and then the tank shoots at him again, and then he just kind of like shoots this little dingy thing, toot, and blows it up and walks away. And it was just like, it had these funny little parts in it that were kind of comedic, but still, violent and actiony. I also like the scene where he's all the testing scenes that he did. That was one thing I miss. I wish they brought back the little robot guys because I like
Dummy.
Yeah, the way he interact, that was Robert Downey Jr. like really playing the part and interacting with it in this way where it's like it's just fun, you know. But I like the parts where he's testing everything out and seeing how it works.
Where he's like 10%, that should be enough, and then he flips backwards into a wall.
And then he goes, and the part where he's like, let's test out to see if this goes, like kind of seeing him as a character, like this is the guy he is. He's a guy who just always was going to try to push the boundaries no matter what it was, and that established his character throughout the rest of the series, I think.
Or this is just a flight controlling device. It's totally harmless. And then he destroys half of the wall and blows himself backwards.
So, how about the worst scene in the movie? Oh, also a nomination for the best scene, I think, is also the very beginning. That first scene that we see is really cool.
It was a good hook.
Yes, please.
Is it true you went 12 for 12 with last year's Maximum cover models?
That is an excellent question. Yes and no. March and I had a scheduling conflict, but fortunately the Christmas cover was twins. Anything else? You're kidding me with the hand up, right?
Is it cool if I take a picture with you?
Yes. It's very cool. I don't want to see this on your MySpace page. Please.
It has AC/DC playing. Mm-hmm. It has him being like cocky and just like joking with these people and really like showing us like he's a guy I want to hang around with. And then it just has this kind of, even the part after that, like there's that part after that when he's like, they're looking for him and he's like playing dice. And like he's just this cocky guy establishing all that character stuff. So a couple big scenes here I think were really good. It also is a very quick movie. It goes by it doesn't feel like
it doesn't feel like the 2.5 hours or whatever that it really is.
Because what is the rundown? Let's see, Iron Man 2008. Let's see what the runtime was. I think it was like 2 hours, right?
2:08.
It is 126 minutes, so 2 hours and 6 minutes. So probably that's with credits, I think. So that's probably like just under 2 hours. So. But it doesn't ever feel like a 2 hour movie like the slog we watched with. We always go back to Justice League.
I hate to break it to you, but you can't compare to the MCU.
So otherwise, worst scene. What's the worst scene?
I gotta say the worst scene is when Obadiah is revealed to Tony as the sort of like the bad guy in the movie. I think it just was kind of put in there. I think honestly that whole party scene I think wasn't super great. I think it could have honestly been better. So I think, but honestly the worst part is probably when Obadiah just like casually whispers to Tony like, "Who do you think was the one that did all of this?" Like.
I like that scene, actually. I like because it made him more ominous. It made him like, I can do whatever I want. I have all the power here. I thought that was a nice part of his character. The thing I didn't like was that he put on the suit and was like killing people suddenly. He's like, how's he going to get away with that? How's he going to keep... If this is a guy who's concerned about consequences, he would never do that because he'd lose the company. There's no way that he can go around just killing people with a giant suit. But I thought you'd say another scene. Xavier, what's the worst scene for you?
Probably the... Oh, that's hard.
There's not really bad scenes.
Yeah.
There's not too many that I like I said, it goes by very quickly. It feels like everything, it never loses its momentum throughout. That's what makes it a good movie. But...
Oh, the first party scene where he's getting the award.
Okay.
I don't like that one. I mean, just the beginning, it just felt like Obadiah was stepping in his bubble almost. Like, I got the feeling that, oh yeah, that's Obadiah Stane, like, he's gonna be the villain. Like, he was trying to grab Tony's fame, but I don't know,
Well, I mean, he wasn't really trying to grab it in that beginning scene. He was, because Tony was gone, so he was like just stepping in there like, hey guys, yeah, I'm here because Tony's not. And he's kind of like frustrated with him a little bit. But yeah, establishing him as the villain, kind of laying that groundwork. I thought for sure the scene that you guys would say, so I thought the scene that you guys would say would be the scene where he gets electrocuted and it shoots up in the sky.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I can't believe I forgot that. Yeah, that was like an instant flashback to the electrocution scene from Godzilla vs. Kong, where they kind of ran out of money.
The budget ran out. So apparently with electrical things, except for Thor, things run out a little bit.
Yeah,
that's because
like,
Thor's
all electrical. Did you guys spend too much money on like making Tony fly or something? Like.
How do the effects hold up for you? When you look at the movie, when you see all the things happening, how do the effects hold up now?
I think honestly, it feels like Iron Man, and especially with the parts where like Tony obviously flips into a wall, like that feels almost real. Like it definitely looks real.
Yeah.
It looks like it would hurt, and I mean, I think it really like the CG in general was really good. Like. Yeah, that's really all I have to say is that it was good.
Even the heads up display.
That's a very
really
cool
good.
scene, like because you always love that in the scenes where he's just like somehow has this magical device that he created that has like all these capabilities. And they did a good job always shooting that, I think.
And I think it was also interesting. I saw this video where like this guy watched Iron Man in quarter speed, 0.25 speed, and like there was this one scene, the very first scene where he has the heads up display, where like they went into the detail to show like a little flashing red when you slammed into that wall while churning out of his garage. He like, slammed into the wall. Right before that, Jarvis actually popped up like a little red warning sign right there that he was going to hit it. So I think the detail that was put into the heads-up display was pretty good as well.
And that was something kind of like to see as the audience, to understand, like, as he's doing all this stuff with the heads-up display, you can understand what's going on. You can kind of, like you said, you can see, like, oh, he's aiming something, he's targeting, he's looking at something, and it doesn't feel like you're disconnected in any way from what's going, the action when they flash back between them. They really did a good job, of course, doing that, and you see it later in the later movies. I think they've gone away from it a little bit in the later movies.
Yeah. But, honestly, the only thing that doesn't really make sense for me is whenever words show up on the screen, you can see Tony's face, so he's reading the words backwards, since we can see the heads-up display on his face.
But you might want to check that and see if that's that. But yeah.
I think the reason that I like it so much is because I've watched a lot of the Lego remixes that people have made, and it's so fun to see the Lego character, because the way they do it is they build basically the outside heads-up display, and then they just put the animation of the head bobbing up and down, so it just looks like a floating Lego head. And it's just so fun to see that, and just to imagine that on Iron Man when you're watching the movie.
And to me, I think that's the big thing that made this movie successful, was that, and maybe having Iron Man was a good choice for the we'll see the next one when we see Hulk, because that was the next movie, I believe, in the sequence we're watching.
Released the same year, actually.
Yeah, I can't remember, 'cause I remember watching Hulk in the theater too. So yeah, it was the same year. Yeah, probably later in the summer I watched it, because this came out in April, but or May here in the States. But I think the effects, like Iron Man was a good character to have the effects where. Maybe we watch the VFX guys talk about things, but having a guy who's made of metal and just has a boxy look is probably a lot easier to make look realistic than making Thanos look real, which comes much, much later, or making like the Hulk look real, which we'll see the difference between the Hulk in Avengers and Incredible Hulk. But the effects to me do hold up. It's still, that was one thing that it made it feel so real, was that it just looks like things are happening. It looks like there's weight to the things he's doing. It looks like there's just something behind it. It looks like there's actually something there. Like all the stuff he's doing, even the stuff he's doing, like the computer thing, designing it, and he's like reaching in and doing it. It was like, that's so cool. How did they, like they had all this stuff that made it look and feel real. So this is the end of it right now. We are looking at this movie again, S to F. How to rank this again? We can come back and adjust these as we start going through the MCU movies. But how would you rate this in terms of S to F for all, just by itself? Let's just start with by itself instead of thinking about the whole MCU yet.
I give it a B.
Okay.
By itself.
I'd give it an, by itself, I think it's probably an S. It was just pretty, like, it was a really good movie. I think I really enjoyed it. So
to me, I could watch it again right now. I could just put it back on. It's a really just fun, quick movie. It feels like. I think I would go A or S, but I'll put A for right now, and then maybe we'll adjust it as we go through, because I do feel like it's
a good movie.
It's a really good movie. It's just again, interesting thingly, I just noticed that you guys rated your characters. You rated Tony the lowest for supporting characters and villain. So, if we had to get our A through S or S through F ratings kind of collaborated here, or what's the word? Calibrated here. I'm sorry. But yeah, so I think, are we happy with saying this is an A for a movie for our first one? Okay, so we'll establish this as an A right now. You have a B, you have an S. We'll put it at an A because I think it is
really an A.
It's really just, like I said, I can watch it again right now if we wanted to put it on. I could sit and watch it because it's fun. It's easy to revisit. I don't know if all the other movies hold up the same way. I'm curious to see because I haven't seen Incredible Hulk in a long time. I haven't seen the Avengers. I've seen once, I think, or twice. So some of these movies I haven't seen. Thor: Dark World I saw once and then bits and pieces. So we'll see how it goes as we go through them. But otherwise, this has been Movie Masterminds reviewing Iron Man. You guys want to say anything?
Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment.
Like and subscribe, and put suggestions in that little box. We're going to be doing a little bit of MCU. We might take a break and do something else. I think there's one movie I was thinking about I'd like for us to watch and see. But otherwise, if you enjoy it, like, subscribe, comment. It goes a long way to help us here because we are a very, very small thing right now.
And rate who won the quiz.
We're establishing the quiz for the next time. We're going to see which movie we do better on.
I won.
Anything?
No, not really.
So that's it for Movie Masterminds. We'll see you guys later, and we'll come up with a catchphrase at some point.
Eventually.